On today's show, we're going to preview and give 2026 picks and predictions for these college football conferences: the Sun Belt, the American, and the Pac-12. Welcome in. This is Winning Cures Everything. It's a college football podcast. I'm your host, Gary Segars, at GaryWCE on all the different socials. This is the Monday, June 29th edition of the show. Getting closer and closer to July. Today we are discussing the last three G6 conferences. So we've got the Sun Belt, the American, and this new look Pac-12. Now, if you missed it last week, we had the MAC, Conference USA, and the Mountain West. Make sure and click that subscribe button, like the video, jump in the comments, all that good stuff. Now let's go ahead and get this pod rolling. The Sun Belt might be my favorite conference to preview pretty much every single year. And it's not because of national prestige. It's not because the champion is going to make the CFP, although they did last year. It's because this league has more personality, right, than any other conference in college football. You've got geography that actually makes sense. You got rivalries that actually mean something. Regional hatred that's just been simmering for decades. I mean, this year you've got Louisiana Tech joining from Conference USA, and they're paying to leave early, mind you, so that they can play ULM and Louisiana and get back to games that, really feel like something. And that's what the Sun Belt is. That's what it's always been. But here's the thing about 2026. ESPN is calling this a transition year for the Fun Belt, and the data does kind of back that up. The league has been one of the best, group of five, but now group of six conferences in the country going back to 2020. Curt Cignetti built something special at James Madison. John Sumrall, Neil Brown before that built something really special at Troy. James Madison was on a run. Charles Huff made Marshall and Southern Miss relevant. Like, the whole league was cooking. And then the coaches started leaving, right? Bob Chesney just left JMU for UCLA. Charles Huff left Southern Miss for Memphis. Those were the coaches of the last two Sun Belt champions, just gone. And with them, you lose depth, you lose momentum. A lot of production that made the league look dangerous. ESPN projects the Sun Belt fourth among the six mid-major leagues for 2026. So they're closer to Conference USA than they are to, say, the American, if we wanted to rank that as the best. You've only got 5 teams that rank 105th nationally in returning production or better. So this is a rebuild year. But even rebuild years in this conference have a really interesting question at the center of it. And for me, that question is, can James Madison survive a second straight coaching change and still hold the league together? Or do things get messy in the East, and does that open the door for schools like Old Dominion, Marshall, Troy, etc., to walk into a title game that, nobody expected them to reach? So I think we're going to be able to find that out this season. As far as the identity, the Sun Belt's identity has always been stronger than its national profile, and I think that's still true in 2026. Like, ESPN said that this is maybe the most sensible conference in college football when it comes to, what I mentioned earlier, geography, rivalries. Every game feels like it means something to somebody. ULM against Louisiana Tech, that's a regional feud that fans have been waiting for. Troy at South Alabama, that's an actual rivalry. JMU and ODU, that's a measuring stick kind of game. There's no shortage of invested fan bases here, engaged local media, games that feel consequential within the region, even if they're not on, ABC Saturday primetime slate, right? The problem is that the product on the field is in transition. Texas State left for the rebuilt Pac-12, which is a real loss. The Bobcats were one of the more fun offenses in the G6 with what G.J. Kinney's doing. Louisiana Tech arrives from Conference USA, and they come in not as a bottom feeder, but I think they could be a legit West Division contender with the best returning production in the entire Sun Belt. Like, that swap probably helps the league's bottom line more than it hurts. The roster picture across the conference it's pretty thin, I think. Only a handful of programs come in with any meaningful returning production. These new coaches are learning their rosters. New quarterbacks are learning new offenses. The league it's going to be watching a lot of teams grow in real time this fall. And I think the honest summary here is that the Sun Belt still has the best vibes in college football. The 2026 roster is just going to make them earn those vibes. Now, the changes in this league are significant, and you got to understand them before the tiers make any sense. James Madison keeps the program, but changes the head coach for the third straight year. No, I guess not third straight year. How do you say that? They went from Kurt Signetti to Bob Chesney. Now they got a new guy, right? Bob Chesney won the Sun Belt, left for UCLA. Billy Napier now takes over. Excuse me. And, if you're not looking at the Florida stuff, or if you look at it through some different colored glasses, Napier does have a real resume, right? He went 34-5 at Louisiana from 2019 through 2021. Louisiana was a legit G6 power or G5 power, I guess, at the time. Billy knows the Sun Belt. I mean, his nickname was Sun Belt Billy, for God's sake, right? He knows how to recruit in the South. But he was at Louisiana. He was at Louisiana. Then he went to Florida. Now, JMU is not in those regions. But he knows how to recruit. The JMU roster he inherited is heavily rebuilt. ESPN says only 4 players who took 300-plus snaps last year are back. That's an extraordinary level of turnover for a defending champ. Southern Miss is basically starting from scratch. Blake Anderson replaces Charles Huff. Huff bolted for Memphis and took a big chunk of the roster with him. ESPN ranks Southern Miss dead last nationally in returning production. One offensive starter, one defender with more than 40 snaps last year. That's just a complete blank slate, right? Coastal Carolina brings in Ryan Beard. Tim Beck was let go there. Beard comes in from Missouri State. He led that program to a bowl game in their first FBS season. And that's a pretty big deal. He's also bringing a large transfer core with him from Missouri State. So it's another one of those programs with high upside, high variance, right? App State, year 2 under Dowell Loggins. Mountaineers brought in 36 transfers last offseason after 40 players transferred out. I mean, the turnover in year 1 was always going to be painful. And they're still kind of dealing with the aftershocks. Georgia Southern, another one to talk about. They made a defensive coordinator change. They brought in Mike Mutz. Clay Helton needed a defensive reset. The Eagles dropped to 130th nationally in defensive SP+. And that's a big correction attempt that they're trying here. Marshall brings back Brad Lambert as their defensive coordinator. Tony Gibson, he knows defense was the problem. They were 119th. I mean, my gosh, in defensive SP+. And, bringing Lambert back is part of the fix, I think. The conference-wide coaching takeaway, the league is full of coaches that are trying to prove something. Napier is, I think his goal with this is to show that the success at Louisiana translates back to the Sun Belt. Ricky Ronnie at ODU, he's trying to prove their 10-win breakthrough was pretty real, even though, they lose their quarterback, etc. Chadwick Parker trying to show Troy's late season. Chadwick Parker, what am I talking about? Gerard Parker. Trying to show Troy's late season surge was a preview, not a fluke. You got Sonny Cumbie at Louisiana Tech. I mean, they're trying to prove the 2025 Conference USA breakthrough does travel to a new league. You got several other coaches just trying to stabilize programs that are still kind of mid-reset. And it's a league with a lot of pressure on a lot of people, which creates chaos. And chaos in this conference preview context means opportunity for us. So let's talk about tiers. And basically what we'll do with this is go through your contenders and the middle spot and so forth. We're going to go through all of the tiers here. So tier 1, which are your real conference title contenders. I think you got quite a few of them, actually, this year. James Madison, Old Dominion, Marshall, Troy, Louisiana, Arkansas State, and I'll even throw in Louisiana Tech there. And let's do it a little differently. We're going to break the East and West because, this conference does have actual divisions. In the East, James Madison is still the conference pick, right? And let me explain why I'm still picking a team with a massive roster turnover, and a new head coach. Napier, 34-5 at Louisiana in the Sun Belt. He built that program into a machine. He recruited well at Florida, and at Louisiana. He developed players. He won games consistently. And now he's back in the Sun Belt with better resources and a championship-level program. Now, they only got 4 players with 300-plus snaps returning. George Pedway at running back. You got Wisłowski at wide receiver. Omar Thomas at edge. And then Weathersby at linebacker. The rest is a portal build and this new coaching staff's vision, which, to be fair, is a lot of uncertainty. But the program infrastructure is pretty real, and the recruiting footprint Napier knows is real. JMU has the easiest overall schedule in the conference, according to ESPN's strength of schedule. If Napier settles the quarterback battle, which is Arrington Maiden, Belfort, Coleman, and J.C. Evans, and apparently all of them are in the mix. If they get the 2 deep functional by October, the Dukes can still run this conference. Old Dominion is probably the best prove-it team in the East. Monarchs came out of nowhere last year. They got 10 wins. They beat Virginia Tech. They pushed Indiana in a pretty tough spot in that opening game. Like, Indiana beat them 27-7, I think it was. But it was a game. And then Indiana goes on to win the national championship, and then you find out that Old Dominion wasn't half bad, right? But Old Dominion's quarterback, of course, has gone over to Wisconsin, is what it is. But Old Dominion pushed James Madison for 3 quarters before the Dukes took over in that 4th. And it's a program that really found something real there under Ronnie. The defensive continuity, that's a whole thing, right? You got Forbes, you got Forrest, you got Thompson, Noatala. Yeah, correct me in the comments. That group returns. They give ODU a legit defensive identity. It's not that the defense was great last year by any stretch, but they've got a lot of continuity. The concern is the offense, because I already told you Colton Joseph, the quarterback, and then you got, 10 starters gone from that offense? Quinn Hennicle or the Washington State transfer, Potter, probably going to inherit a rebuilt operation here. But, it's still a team that you're going to have to prove it against. You're going to have to beat them. And heading into the fall, they got a game on September 26th where they host James Madison. Like, if the Monarchs win that game, this whole East race changes shape quickly. Marshall, they've got the clearest quarterback advantage in the East, and in a league with uncertainty at that position, I think that's a pretty big deal. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, he's the real deal. Lindy's named him the league's most accurate passer. They said that he had the strongest arm, and he was the best scrambler. He combined for over 2,000 passing yards and 700-plus non-sack rushing yards over 10 starts last season. And then you got McReynolds, you got Payne, you got Slappy around him. The offensive skill is certainly there. Now, the problem for Marshall is the defense, right? We talked about that earlier. 119th in defensive SP Plus last year. And bringing back Brad Lambert is the fix as their defense coordinator. If the defense becomes even passable, then, Del Rio Wilson gives them a real East title path. Now let's move over to the West. The West is genuinely chaotic. And I mean that in a good way, obviously. ESPN has got Louisiana, Arkansas State, Troy, and Louisiana Tech all separated by less than half a projected conference win. Like, that's 4 teams that are in a complete dead heat. Now, my projected champ is Troy from the West. And the reasoning behind that is Goose Crowder's back. Tucker Kilcrease gives them a backup with some starting experience. You got, if you start looking at preview magazines, Phil Steele and Lindy's both lean Troy in the West. And I agree with them. Now, my winning cures everything conference strength of schedule gives them the 11th hardest conference schedule, which is one of the more favorable paths in that division. You got senior leadership on defense, led by Donnie Smith. That gives the Trojans some real teeth, and they played well last year. Now, the concerns are that 13 of 19 defensive regulars from last year are gone, which is a pretty significant rebuild. The receiver room is almost completely unproven, and Troy under, Austin they're installing a new offensive coordinator. So the Trojans need some more offensive production to feel comfortable, but in a wide open West, I feel like stable is good enough. And Troy has got that in spades. As far as the best betting value team in the West, probably the Raging Cajuns out of Louisiana. The Cajuns have the easiest conference schedule in the entire Sun Belt. I've got them ranked 14th, which is the friendliest draw possible. Now, Winfield returns a quarterback after his late season spark. That includes a 14 out of 15 passing game against South Alabama. He had 131 yards rushing against Arkansas State in that same stretch. Sampson Jr. gives him a receiver who can go over the top. You got Blanco and Garner back on the offensive line. The defensive front six lost some key havoc pieces, which is the biggest question mark on that side of the ball. But if Winfield is as good as those late season flashes suggested, if the schedule holds up the way that I had projected to, Louisiana can win the West. And, I mean, at plus 880, like to win the conference, that's a pretty interesting number. Arkansas State could be maybe the most frustrating team in this division to evaluate because the roster profile is good. And the schedule is pretty favorable, honestly. But everything depends on a quarterback battle that nobody has figured out. The supporting cast around whoever wins the battle, and it's Owens, Dickey, St. Hilaire, or Crawford. Like that's, I got no idea who's going to take over there. But the offensive line continuity is a big deal. Chauncey Cobb is a special teams weapon. Like Hamilton and Flores, like that gives the defensive front an upgrade. The second easiest conference schedule in the Sun Belt is a big deal for them. But, I mean, we got to talk about some of the negatives. Jalen Raynor's gone. Whoever steps in it is going to be unproven. And Phil Steele also flags Arkansas State as a turnover bounce-back candidate. They finished minus 10 in turnover margin last year. If the quarterback answer arrives and the turnover luck normalizes, Arkansas State could win this division. The newcomer story of Louisiana Tech is interesting. I mean, they maybe the most interesting in all of Group of Six, right? But you got North Dakota State coming in, you got Sacramento State, like da-da-da-da. But as far as conference changes, there's not a lot. The Bulldogs do have the best returning production in the Sun Belt. Blake Baker returns. Not Blake Baker. Baker. We'll just say Baker. From an ACL tear. ESPN said he was stellar before the injury. He's expected to be ready. Defensive front under Olsen was really disruptive. Leota, Mayfield, and Ogans. That group created some real havoc for that team last year. But if you start looking at the secondary, they lost their top 5 players, which is a significant rebuild. Tech entering a new league, and they're going to face some schematic adjustment and some scheduling challenges. But the thing is, Louisiana Tech paid to leave CUSA early, specifically to compete in this league immediately. ESPN projects them 99th in SP+, and that's a legit West contender. That's not a bottom feeder. At plus 1,000 to win the conference, it's probably my favorite upside play in the Sun Belt. So all of those are tier 1s, and the fact that you've got tier 1s at a possible plus 1,000, I mean, that's decent value, right? And as far as tier 2, these are your bowl teams, your dark horses, not a ton of expectation, but you could absolutely see them get some pretty big wins, some upsets here and there. That would be Georgia Southern, App State, Coastal Carolina, and South Alabama. Georgia Southern is trying to fix the defense under the new coordinator there, Mutz, because they had the 130th ranked defensive SP Plus season. Now, Clay Helton can coach offense. The Eagles have been pretty consistent there. Now, they look completely different than they did in years past where they ran the triple, but the defense has got to become functional enough to not give games away. Like, the schedule's the third hardest in the conference, which really complicates a bowl push. You move over to App State. Dabble Loggins, genuinely hard to trust right now. Like, a lot of transfers in and out last year. Year 1 was messy. Year 2, still sorting out the quarterback battle between Singleton and Hasselbeck. But the App State brand is real. And 6-6 is beyond reachable if the quarterback situation stabilizes. Coastal Carolina, of course, I mentioned Brian Beard. A lot of energy. Missouri State transfer core coming in, providing immediate roster help. The quarterback battle there, Bailey, Jackson, Guerra, and Lopez. There's upside, but there's no certainty there. Now, the concern with this bunch is the schedule. Like, I've got Coastal with the second hardest conference draw in the Sun Belt, and that's a tough spot for a first-year head coach. And it's a program reset, right? South Alabama, they got Bishop Davenport back, who gives them more proven quarterback play than most of their Sun Belt peers. The roster keeps getting picked apart, though, and I've got them with the 12th hardest schedule, which is one of the more manageable draws in the conference. The ceiling, I think, for this team is a bowl game and maybe a couple of spoiler wins, but I'm not expecting a ton out of South Alabama this year. Now, the Tier 3 teams, there's not a bunch of them, but these are rebuilds, these are long shots, these are the teams that you just should not expect anything out of, and that's ULM, Georgia State, and Southern Miss. ULM has more continuity than you would expect, and they're one of Phil Steele's turnover bounce-back candidates because they were minus 10 turnover margin last year. But Bill Connolly has got them 132nd in SP Plus with averaging 2.6 wins. I mean, improvement is possible, but meaningful wins, I don't know that we're going to get there. Georgia State went 1-11, and they're 133rd in SP Plus. The quarterback, Brown, he did show flashes. Offense, 25.3 points per game and 4 late starts and 3 experienced offensive linemen return. But the defense was atrocious last year, and the schedule is the most difficult in the conference. There's no good news here other than the floor is already about as low as it can get there. Southern Miss, I think, is going to be my fade of this conference. They've got the worst returning production in the country. New head coach coming in is Blake Anderson, and he's already been there. But Charles Huff left. He took the best players that Southern Miss had, and they returned one offensive player who started more than twice, and they're only seeing one defensive player who saw more than 40 snaps. Phil Steele, his turnover chart has Southern Miss as a regression risk after a plus 14 turnover margin last year, and that 7-6 record was built on a roster that just ain't there anymore. Now, most of the roster was Marshall transfers, really. But that's what we're looking at with Southern Miss this year. Now let's talk about what the Sun Belt does well, right? The geographic and rivalry structure is the best in the group of 6. The games feel like real games, like we've been through all of this. These matchups have context and stakes that extend well beyond the football field. Like, it's passionate fan bases, passionate fan experience, and it helps the league maintain its identity even in a down year, which is probably what this year is going to be. The East Division, you got real top-end quality. 3 of ESPN's top 4 projected Sun Belt teams are in this side of the conference. The East champ is legitimately going to be one of the better teams in the group of 6, even in a transition year. The West has a ton of parity. I mean, it could be chaos all over the place. They're separated by almost nothing in the projections. That's a division race that's going to go deep, deep into the calendar. And the league also has several dual-threat quarterbacks who can cover a lot of sins, right? Del Rio Wilson, you got Goose Crowder, you got Winfield, you got Davenport. Dual-threat mobility in a league with roster churn is insanely valuable because it covers for offensive line instability and wide receiver inexperience, right? Now, where the conference has real problems is the fact that the profile has slipped, right? ESPN projects the Sun Belt 4th among mid-major leagues. They were a top 2 G5 conference from 2020 through 2024. Like, that's a real change for this conference. The league's best argument for national relevance kind of requires somebody to separate from the pack, and JMU is the one that has kind of gotten that brand thanks to Cignetti doing so well in Indiana and Bob Chesney taking them to the CFP last year. You've only got 5 teams that rank better than 105th nationally in returning production, so you got a ton of new pieces figuring themselves out in real time. So you should expect a lot of, especially early season volatility. And the quarterback situation among the conference is genuinely uncertain. JMU has a 4-man battle. ODU is replacing their entire offensive identity. Arkansas State has 4 guys competing for the quarterback job. Georgia Southern's got 3. Like, Coastal Carolina has 4. App State's got a couple. The league race might come down to which programs find the least bad answer at quarterback. And the bottom of this conference is genuinely bad. Like, Southern Miss, ULM, and Georgia State, like, if those programs are as limited as they project, it brings the league's national narrative down, even if the top is really competitive. The key players and units that everybody needs to know going into 2026, Carlos Del Rio Wilson at Marshall is the best quarterback in the Sun Belt. Lindy's guide gave him every individual quarterback award projection, and that's most accurate, strongest arm, best scrambler. He's the reason the Herd is in basically every East conversation. Goose Crowder at Troy is the best quarterback in the West. Now, can he stay healthy? That's another thing, but he's got title game experience. He's been named the clutch player by Lindy's. He gives Austin's new offensive system a real foundation. Baker at Louisiana Tech gives the Bulldogs a real chance to be, dangerous immediately in their new league. Health is the question there. Winfield at Louisiana is the X factor from the West title race. Late season flashes were pretty real. If that's the real quarterback you're going to get, Louisiana is a West title threat. As far as running back, Petaway at James Madison, best running back in the conference. He's one of the 4 300-plus snap guys from last year, and he gives the Dukes a rushing foundation while the quarterback situation sorts itself out. Smith over at Troy, the best defensive player in the West, maybe the whole conference. The guy's a legit pass rusher, legit run defender. He was named the West Defensive Player of the Year. As far as by Lindy's, that's the projection. On defense, ODU has got the best collective unit in the West. In the East, you got Forbes, Forrest, Thompson, and Neotala. I'm going to get that wrong every time. God, I want to say it right though. That group was the reason that the Monarchs won 10 games last year. Aside from the offense, most of those guys are back. Louisiana Tech's defensive front, huge deal. Leota, Mayfield, Ogans, most disruptive unit in the West. If the secondary can reload, again, they lost their top 5. I don't know how easy that is. But Tech becomes genuinely dangerous. The best overall offensive unit here is Marshall with Del Rio Wilson. The best overall defense, I think, this year is probably going to be ODU. As far as continuity, best team is going to be Louisiana Tech. Now, for scheduling dynamics, let's walk through what my strength of schedule table tells us about who's got it easy and who don't. As far as the teams that have the most difficult paths, Georgia State has the most difficult in the Sun Belt. That's bad news for a program coming off a 1-11 season. Coastal Carolina has the second most difficult. That's a genuinely rough spot for a first-year head coach with a transfer-heavy roster that's still trying to figure things out. Georgia Southern has the third most difficult, which complicates that defensive fix that Clay Helton needs. App State has got the fourth, and Southern Miss has got the fifth most difficult, which on top of the worst returning production in the country makes the whole season picture pretty dark for Blake Anderson in year one there. As far as teams with favorable conference paths, Louisiana, to me, has the easiest schedule in the Sun Belt. And that alone makes them a West title contender. Arkansas State, I've got as the second easiest, which is why I kind of keep coming back to them as, a quarterback-dependent value in this division. South Alabama draws the third easiest, which keeps their bowl hopes alive if Davenport can hold things together there. Troy draws the 11th hardest, which is a manageable path for the defending West champ. I think Troy is a real spot here. As far as the games that could decide the league, there are several here, so we'll go through a few of these. James Madison at Old Dominion on September 26th. It's a tone setter for the entire East race. If Old Dominion wins this one at home, you're going to have chaos from week 4 onward. October 3rd, you got a couple of games here. Marshall at James Madison, then followed immediately by Arkansas State at Louisiana. It's 2 massive games on the same day in 2 different parts of this conference. October 10th, you got a couple of games there. James Madison at Georgia Southern, which is a legitimately dangerous road game for JMU. And also on that day, you've got Louisiana at Louisiana Tech. It's a new rivalry game, got instant heat. That game's going to tell you a lot about both of those teams. October 17th, Troy at Louisiana. That's a West title race hinge game there. October 29th, you got Troy at James Madison. It's a conference championship rematch from 2025. October 31st on Halloween, you got a possible East champion decider with Marshall and Old Dominion. If JMU slipped up somewhere, this game is probably going to decide the East. November 7th, Louisiana Tech at Troy. 2 teams that I feel best about in the West, and that's a massive game. Massive game. And then November 28th, Louisiana Tech at Georgia Southern. It's a late season trap for Tech in a game where the Eagles, I think, could be potentially playing for a bowl game, could be potentially playing to end somebody's title dreams. I mean, there's any number of stakes that could be going on there. Like, the schedule heavily supports Louisiana, Arkansas State, and Troy in the West. In the East, JMU has the projection, but you got to survive Old Dominion on the road. You got to survive Marshall. Before the calendar ever gets easy. Now, as far as the championship race, my projected Sun Belt championship game, as you can see on the screen, James Madison against Troy. JMU gets there as the East rep because, I mean, the program I feel like is just too well built to be able to fall apart. Like, I know it's a transition year, but Billy Napier knows this league. He won in this league. And the roster, yes, has turned over almost entirely, but the transfer class is talent-loaded. Pettaway can carry this team early. In the defense with Thomas and Weathersby and Roberts, they got some real pieces there. Like, the Dukes may be uneven in September, which is why that Old Dominion game is so huge, but I have no doubt they're going to have things figured out by November. Troy, getting there in the West, I feel like being stable is the best way to win a wide-open division. Goose Crowder, as long as he stays healthy, gives him experience. Schedule is manageable. Smith is the defensive anchor there. The West race comes down to which team holds up the longest, and I think Troy has the fewest obvious pain points on their roster. Now, the biggest threats to that matchup, Old Dominion, they can absolutely reach the title game. That defense, can carry through the early parts of the offense trying to figure things out. Marshall can reach that title game thanks to the quarterback, Del Rio Wilson. And, I mean, you still got to fix the defense, but still, Marshall has talent. Louisiana is my best alternate pick in the West. I mean, the schedule is so friendly that if the quarterback can carry him to a division title, he can carry them to a division title, if the offense is even close to what the late season flashes suggested. Louisiana Tech, they could steal the West in year one, right? Because nobody's expecting anything out of them. And that's just based more on having the best returning production in the league, right? Like, it's a defensive front that has real havoc there. I wouldn't sleep on Tech yet. But my projected champion is going to be James Madison. And I don't have a lot of confidence in this pick. It's more of a trust the program, trust the coach kind of thing because this conference is just wide open. But Napier, he had a Sun Belt machine going at Louisiana before he went to Florida, and he dealt with so many injuries there. And I think the gig was just really big. It was really big. At JMU, he's got the resources, he's got the infrastructure to be able to reload fast, and they've got the easiest overall schedule in the conference, right? So, per ESPN strength schedule anyway. If the quarterback battle gets solved by mid-September, then JMU is probably going to run this league. If it doesn't, you can still get Old Dominion in there, Marshall in there, and we would never expect either one of those to make it to the title game, I don't think. Now, betting angles, the market is telling you JMU is the favorite. And the market is probably right. But the value in this conference is elsewhere, right? James Madison at plus 300 is the football pick, but not the betting pick. Like, you're paying for the JMU logo, you're paying for Napier's history, but you're also absorbing, like, enormous roster uncertainty. So while I've got JMU as my champion projection, like, I'm not going to lay minus 300 or anywhere near it, or plus 300. I'm not going to, I'm not doing that. Old Dominion at plus 520 is not bad, but I was hoping for even better odds because while the defense is real, replacing the quarterback Colton Joseph and essentially the entire offense makes it hard to trust at that price without seeing how this new operation functions to start with. My real value is going to be Troy plus 920. That's my best conference future. The Trojans are the projected West winner. They've got the cleanest West profile. You got Crowder and Smith on opposite sides of the ball. The market is not treating them like a division favorite. Like, there's a pricing inefficiency that I would probably target there. Louisiana at plus 880. And the win total over 7.5 at minus 120 might be my favorite overall value package on the board. You got the easiest schedule in the league. You got the quarterback who flashed real ability late in the season. Plus money on both the title future and the win total. That ain't bad. That ain't bad. Like plus 120, that's all right. That combination is very playable. Louisiana Tech at plus 1,000. If you're looking for an upside future, best continuity in the league, like you've got a legit title path in the Western Division, and nobody's treating them like a serious threat. Plus 1,000 is aight. Marshall plus 1,100 in the East. That's pretty good considering Del Rio Wilson has got the clearest quarterback edge in the division. Like, he can absolutely carry a team in this league. Arkansas State at plus 1120. Like, I need to see the quarterback battle resolve first. The roster and the schedule are there. But can Butch Jones find the guy? He did it before, but we'll see. As far as fades go, Southern Miss under 4.5. It's expensive. Like, it's minus 200. But, I mean, where are they going to find wins? Like, it's the worst returning production in the country. You got a brand new coach. You got turnover regression risk. You got the fifth most difficult schedule. Like, every single data point points in the same direction here, and that's to go under. ULM under 3.5 is even. That's worth a look. Like, yes, Bill Connolly's got them at 2.6 wins. Like, and there just ain't a lot to like about that situation there. Not just in the football program. Like, I love the coach. Vincent's great. But that athletic department has no money. I mean, none. Zero. So I don't know exactly what they're going to be looking for here. Georgia State, you can get them under 4.5 at minus 175. And given the fact that they've got the most difficult conference schedule in the league, and they're coming off 1-11, and I don't really trust all the people that they brought in, but, I mean, minus 175 is a lot of juice, but my God, if it don't make sense. My surprise team, and the one that I think is going to outperform the market and make some noise, is Louisiana Tech, right? It's first year in the conference. Nobody's treating them like a real title threat, but we've already talked about Baker being healthy and proven. The defensive front is actual legit, and the schedule is manageable enough. I think Louisiana Tech is going to surprise some people. So I would probably go with the over there. The disappointment pick is going to be Southern Miss. Absolutely. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong with Southern Miss, and I just don't see a lot of value for them. As far as the big picture for this conference, the market says JMU is the favorite. The value is out west. Louisiana has the schedule. Troy's got the stability. Louisiana Tech, I've mentioned their returning production. Marshall has the quarterback who can blow the East race wide open. It's the coaching ambitions and the regional rivalries and the roster volatility are all going to collide in real time this fall. And it's chaotic and it's fun. And this is a conference where you're going to want to pay attention every single week. Like, that is the Sun Belt in 2026.
Are you tired of sore knees or joints slowing you down? Go Sleeves uses built-in kinesiology tape technology to give you support, reduce pain, and help you recover faster. Use code WCE for 15% off over at GoSleeves.com.
You want extra Winning Cures Everything content and a way to support the show directly? Head over to buymeacoffee.com/winningcures and become part of the community today. The American Athletic Conference in 2026 might be the most legitimately wide-open league in college football. Not wide open in the way that every preview magazine pretends that 5 teams can win it and one runs away by Halloween. I mean, like, this can get genuinely messy, right? It's the kind of conference where you can make a real argument for 6, 7 teams and not feel stupid by November. Like, 2025 was a strong year at the top, right? You had Tulane, North Texas, Navy, USF, East Carolina, Memphis. Like, you had real depth. You had real credibility with this. And then the offseason just gutted it. Summerall left for Florida. Morris left for Oklahoma State. Silverfield goes to Arkansas. Golesh to Auburn. East Carolina lost both of their coordinators. Navy now has to replace Blake Horvath. So, the question that defines the entire preview for the American, does continuity win in this league or does talent win it? Like, Navy has the path. UTSA has the quarterback. Memphis has the upside. Army has the system. ECU has their coach back, and they've got the schedule. South Florida's got talent. Like, nobody's clean, but almost everybody has an argument. That is the American in 2026. Now, as far as the identity of the entire conference, you're looking at high turnover, high variance. There's no monster at the top that's hovering above everybody else. It's a group of teams that are all kind of standing within arm's reach of each other, right? Every one of them has got some kind of flaw. Navy is the favorite because they know exactly who they are, right? They got the system, they got the culture. Their defense is pretty good. They're built. UTSA, I think, is the most stable offensive bet because the quarterback Owen McCown is back. Memphis always has potential to be the best team in the conference by Thanksgiving, but, 53 transfers. You got to become a football team first, right? ECU has a friendly schedule and a coach that has proven to be pretty trustworthy, but they've got massive roster turnover. Army, I already mentioned they got the system, they got the quarterback. USF they're the Heartline experiment, right? He's coming in from Ohio State. Tulane is the brand, and everybody, I guess, or at least the books are pricing them to where you have to pay for that brand, but it's a roster that no longer matches the reputation, right? And now Will Hall is there, and it's not like he was extremely successful at Southern Miss when he was the head coach there. The team that wins the American might not be the most talented. It might just be the team that figures itself out the fastest. Memphis is basically, like, they're a complete restart, right? Charles Huff comes in with 53 transfers, 17 from his Southern Miss program. Like, Huff has flipped programs before, but this is a pretty massive ask in year one. USF hired Brian Hartline after Golesh left for Auburn. Like, Hartline can obviously recruit. He built one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country at Ohio State, but he's a first-time head coach. He's putting in a new system. They've got a new quarterback. Sometimes that combo bites people. Tulane went 43-13 over 4 years, and they reached the CFP last season. But now you got a new coach, right? Will Hall replaces Summerall, and that in and of itself is some continuity. But ESPN projects them 7th in the American. Like, the gap between reputation and projection kind of tells you everything you need to know there. North Texas brings in Neil Brown, was at West Virginia, but before that he was at Troy. It's a good hire, but there's almost nothing returning from the number one offense in the country last season. All of them went up to Oklahoma State with the former coach. East Carolina keeps their head coach, Blake Harrell, but they lose both coordinators and most of the roster. UAB finally fired Dilfer. Mortensen takes over there. Todd Grantham comes in as the defensive coordinator. Who knows what to expect from that? There are good coaches in this league. There is not stability in this league. So let's talk about the tiers. Let's go over our title contenders. Navy, UTSA, Memphis, East Carolina, Army. I think. Obviously, you can correct me if you think somebody else is actually going to win this conference. Navy is my projected champion. Best combination of identity, defensive stability, schedule, system continuity, all the good stuff. Braxton Woodson is unproven as a full-time starter, but he's got rushing ability and, passing flashes to keep this modern option moving. My Winning Cures Everything schedule table gives Navy one of the easiest conference draws in the league, and at plus 440, it's playable. Right? UTSA has got the best quarterback profile in the conference. I don't think that one's even close. Owen McCown is back with Will Henderson III, A.J. Wilson, an offensive line that's got real continuity, and Traylor has averaged a top 35 offensive SP plus over 5 years. They keep changing coordinators. It doesn't matter. Like, he finds new guys every single time, so I know what they're good at. The defense has ranked outside of the top 80 in 4 of the last 5 seasons. If it's just average, UTSA can win this league. They're plus 490. So they're right there with Navy as my favorite title bets, but, it's still not as much of a price as I would have hoped for. Memphis, I think, is the ceiling team. Like, as far as quarterback, Aaron Nolan against Stokes, that's the key. Whoever wins that battle is going to determine how explosive this offense really gets. You got Hayden, Covey, Chapman, Kevin Decker. The talent is all there. The concern for this bunch is chemistry. You got 53 transfers that can make you the best team in the league by October, or you can just look silly in September and, it looks like nobody even read the group chat there. East Carolina, hard to fade, but also hard to fully trust. Blake Harrell has earned the benefit of the doubt now. The schedule avoids a lot of the toughest projected teams, but quarterback Caden Hauser's gone. You got 10 offensive starters gone. Both coordinators are gone. At plus 820, the schedule is real, and, the bet would have to come with eyes just wide open here. Army, plus 680 here. Legit contender. Cale Helms is back. You got 4 starting offensive linemen returning. The system doesn't require 5 stars, just a lot of discipline and a lot of execution. The schedule is tougher than Navy's, and the defensive turnover creates more questions, but, plus 680, I think they're live. Now, as far as Tier 2, these are interesting ones. These are the high variance kind of dark horse. Yeah, that's what we're looking at here. South Florida, Tulane, FAU, Tulsa, and Temple. USF is the talent swing, right? You got Michael Van Buren Jr., gives him a blue-chip quarterback prospect, but 8.5 wins with the underjuiced is a big number for a first-year head coach with this much change around him. Tulane is that whole, what did I put here, name-brand trap. 4 incredible years, new coach, unsettled quarterback, 7th in the conference projection. FAU, they've got a lot back. Caden Veltkamp threw for over 3,600 yards. You got strong returning production, but the second hardest conference schedule, the win total, maybe just doing the win total over instead of a conference future for that bunch. Tulsa might be the surprise team. You got Hayes, you got offensive line coming back, you got real secondary, you got strong running back Portal Hall. They're going to ruin somebody's title chances, I'd bet. Now, Temple is interesting. If you've been watching this show for any amount of time, you know how much I appreciate Casey Keeler. The quarterback room has almost no college production. So that's going to be interesting. The Tier 3s, bowl bubble rebuilds here. You've got North Texas, you got Rice, you got UAB, and you got Charlotte. North Texas has the easiest schedule in the conference and a good hire in Neil Brown, but almost nothing back from that 12-win offense. Rice has Ja'Cory Brown in the gun option, and that's, it's watchable. It's fun. They sneak up on people a little bit. UAB has got the hardest conference schedule. They're still figuring out what they want to be. Charlotte projected dead last in FBS. I think improvement is probably the goal there. I would believe it is. Now, for what this conference does well, it has genuine options. You can build a coherent argument for any of these teams. Navy, UTSA, Memphis, East Carolina, USF, Tulane. It's rare in a group of 6 league that you can do that. The quarterback intrigue is real here. McCown, I think, is the cleanest. Woodson is maybe the most important system transition. Helms gives Army some stability. Beltkamp gives FAU a passing ceiling. And the Memphis quarterback battle, that one might be the most important individual competition in this entire conference. You do have returning production at certain spots, right? Your Navy and Army, you're almost always going to have some returning production there. UTSA, FAU, Tulsa, those matter more, I think, in a league that is this unstable when you got guys coming back that know the system with coaches coming back, etc. The concerns are at the top, and they just got rated, right? Tulane, North Texas, USF, Memphis, ECU, all replacing major leadership and replacing production simultaneously. There's no obvious CFP level team. The bottom needs to be functional, right? Charlotte, UAB, and Rice just dragging the national perception. That's a huge problem. As far as key players, I've already brought up Owen McCown at UTSA, but I think he's the best title race quarterback in this conference. Like, Lindy's has him as the offensive MVP projection. Like, he gives the Roadrunners a pretty high floor. Braxton Woodson at Navy, he's the swing piece as far as the championship pick. He doesn't need to be spectacular. Like, at Navy, you just got to be functional, you got to be smart, and just somewhat capable of threatening the pass to keep defenses from loading up the box. They're still going to load the box. It's just whether or not you can hit the stuff over the top. That's the job. Kel Helms at Army, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it changes the calculus for that entire offense just by him being on the field. Belkamp and Easton Messer at FAU, that gives FAU a passing ceiling that's worth respecting. And again, the Memphis quarterback battle, I mean, it's a huge, huge decision what they're going to have to do there. And either one of those guys could come in and make Memphis the team to beat in this league. On defense, you got Jamon Tapp at Memphis. That's Lindy's Defensive Player of the Year. He's a proven pass rusher. He gives the Tigers some real teeth, even while the rest of the roster sorts itself out. As far as best units go, UTSA, their offense is probably the most bankable. Navy's defense is probably the most trustworthy. Memphis is the school that's got the highest offensive ceiling if that transfer class clicks. Tulsa's offensive line continuity, probably the most underrated unit in the entire conference. Now for the scheduling dynamics, and my Winning Cures Everything strength of schedule table is doing a lot of work in this conference, right? You got brutal paths here. UAB has the hardest schedule, FAU the second hardest. And the one thing keeping me from going all in on FAU is that schedule, because I think they could be good. Like, there were certain signs towards the end of last season that I thought they could get there. But Army is third most difficult. It's a big reason why I prefer Navy as your championship pick. Charlotte and UCF also have pretty difficult draws, which makes that 8.5 win total for USF look pretty aggressive. Favorable paths. North Texas got the easiest conference schedule. Navy has the second easiest. Like, it's a core pillar of the champion pick. And for those that, you look at North Texas, and it's kind of tough to see where they're going to be getting wins and whatnot, and I understand that. But I am pretty convinced that North Texas, I mean, there are several games on the schedule that they are just not going to win, and the other ones are all winnable. Like, there's a very distinct up and down on them. Navy's got the second easiest schedule. It's at this point, looking at all of these different conferences, that is a pillar of your champion pick. East Carolina specifically avoids several of the toughest projected teams. I mentioned that earlier. As far as games that decide the conference, we've got some. Navy at UTSA on October 17th. To me, that's the title game preview. East Carolina at Memphis on October 22nd. Army at Memphis on October 31st. November 12th, Memphis at USF. And then Memphis at Navy on November 21st. Memphis shows up in almost every key game. Like, ESPN calls them the hinge team. Like, they might win the league, or they might just decide who does win it. And I think that's pretty fair. As far as the championship race, I mean, my projected American championship game is Navy versus UTSA. I think Navy gets there because the path is clean. I think the defense is stable, and you know what you're getting with that offense. UTSA gets there because Owen McCown is probably the best quarterback in this conference, and I mean, the Roadrunners can score on anybody, and I've got a little bit of faith in them to be able to shore up that defense a little bit this season. Memphis is the biggest threat to everything with this, right? And boy, people in Memphis needed something with the whole Jaja Binks thing going on with the Grizzlies and everything else, right? So if Charles Huff can bring a championship caliber program, that'd go a long way in this city. But the way that they're a threat to everybody is if the 53 transfers click fast. The Tigers have got the most talent by far. ECU can get there. Army can get there if the defense holds. Like, USF can get there because they got all the talent, but you would really need Heartline's operation to work a lot faster than expected. My champ is Navy. In a league where almost everybody's just trying to figure out who they are, I want the team that already knows who they are, and that's the midshipmen. As far as betting angles, Your best conference futures, I think, probably, it's the two that I have got at the top. Navy at plus 440, UTSA at plus 490. I'm not taking one without the other, though. I just bet a little bit on both. Memphis at plus 680 is live, but that's a ceiling play. That's not exactly a confidence pick. ECU plus 820. Like, if you believe in Harrell and you think they can get through that schedule, then okay. I don't know that I would, because we have no idea what that offense is going to look like for sure. The overvalued teams, USF and Tulane. USF is at 8.5 as far as their win total, with the under already juiced to minus 140. Like, the market is already skeptical, and I agree with that. Tulane, probably right around 7 wins, but I don't want to pay for, 4-year legacy with a new coach and a new roster team. Your win totals, Navy at over 7.5 at minus 160. Like, it's expensive, but it goes with the title pick, right? UTSA over 7.5 at minus 125. That makes sense if they reach the championship game. ECU over 7.5 at plus money. I think that's kind of a spicy play. FAU over 5.5. Like, I just think the second year there is going to be good for them. I'm interested. My cleanest fade in this conference is USF under 8.5. And it's juicy, don't get me wrong, but, I just don't expect things to go just swimmingly right out of the gate. I mean, this is a team that didn't exactly – even with Golesh there, they weren't hitting, 8 wins or 9 wins every single season anyway. But who knows? My surprise team is Tulsa. Not to win the American, but to beat the 4-8 market perception, right? Again, Hayes, that offensive line, the secondary, a strong running back class. Like, year 2 under Trey Lamb is, I think, really being slept on. The disappointment pick has got to be Tulane, right? If anyone is still pricing them like old Tulane, with a new coach, an unsettled quarterback, limited returning starters, that's a full-blown regression warning. It's not a blip. Like, this is just a year where they're going to have to try and get things back on track. As far as the big picture, like, the American is just a beautiful mess, right? Navy is probably going to be your cleanest pick, which may not be the most fun thing, but you know what you're going to get out of them. UTSA is going to be your quarterback pick. Memphis is your ceiling pick. ECU is the schedule pick. Army is the system pick. USF is the talent, etc., right? Every one of these teams has a real argument and a real flaw, and that is exactly why this league is worth watching. If you can't watch the show live, no problem. Subscribe to the Winning Cures Everything audio podcast and never miss an episode. Of course, make sure that you leave a 5-star review, and don't forget, it's available everywhere you get podcasts. Shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. The latest WCE merch is now available. Support and rep your favorite college football show today. Just visit winningcureseverything.com/store. The Pac-12 is back. It's just not the one that you remember, right? USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, Stanford, that version's gone, right? What survived is Oregon State and Washington State, and they have been joined by all of the state schools over on the west side of the world, right? Or on the west side of the country, anyway, of our little world here. But that's, Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Utah State, Colorado State, and Texas State. And here's the thing, though. As strange as that sounds on paper, this rebuilt Pac-12, Bill Connolly projects this as the best group of 6 conference in college football by average SP Plus rating. Like, not like it's a salvageable operation. It is the best G6 league in the country, and it comes with a real question. Like, is it just Boise State's league to take? Because there's several places that say that there's no team in all of FBS that is a bigger conference favorite than Boise State right now. The Broncos are the only team in this league that are projected inside the top 40 nationally. Like, the gap is pretty real. But you got other options, right? San Diego State can win ugly. Fresno State can physically bully you. Texas State's got the best quarterback in the league. Washington State may have stolen the best transfer quarterback. Utah State, I mean, anything is possible with Broncos' big bad boys, right? So, yeah, Boise is the overwhelming favorite. The drama, I think, is who earns the right to take a swing at them. Now, as far as the identity, the new Pac-12 it's a rebuilt Western Group of Six power league, and that's a good thing. Like when Oregon State and Washington State were keeping the name alive by themselves, it wasn't a real league, but now it is. You got all of those state schools, Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, and Utah State. They bring 13 of the last 14 Mountain West titles into this conference. Colorado State and Texas State bring in new markets, and the pitch is simple. Like, it's not Power 4, but it's the very first conversation after it. The concern is whether Boise is too dominant for this to really feel like a race. The Broncos are, if they are as good as projected, the title game becomes really a coronation, right? And the real competition is going to be for that second seed. For this league to kind of capture the attention of the college football world, somebody's got to make Boise earn it. And that storyline is what 2026 is going to be built around. The headline change is the league itself, right? Realignment brought in Boise, SDSU, Fresno, etc. And, Texas State coming in from the Sun Belt. The real loss on the offensive side, the real credibility gain at the top, like that's a big part of what changed with this conference. Within teams, there's a clear coaching stability divide. Like the top programs are all settled. You got Spencer Danielson at Boise State. You got Sean Lewis in year, 3? At San Diego State, Matt Entz is in year 2 at Fresno. Bronco Mendenhall in year 2. He and Robert and I are back at Utah State. G.J. Kinney still at Texas State, been there for a while. That continuity matters enormously in a brand new conference structure. The volatile side is Washington State is on their 4th head coach in 6 seasons. So Kirby Moore comes in and he takes over, and he made a key portal move with landing Caden Pennick from UC Davis. Over 3,200 yards passing, over 400 yards rushing, 35 total touchdowns. Bill Connolly calls him an absolute steal. The defensive roster's an almost complete rebuild, though. Oregon State, they brought in a new head coach, Jamarcus Shepard, who was the wide receiver coach under Kalen DeBoer for the last 4 or 5 years, however long it's been. Been with him for a long, long time. But Oregon State's coming off a 2-10 season. The defense is probably closer than the offense, but the program needs just a big jump just to get back to relevant. Colorado State brought in Jim Mora, and bringing in a coach of that caliber kind of accelerates a rebuild after another 2-10 collapse. But he's got the second most difficult conference schedule waiting for him in year 1. At the top of this league has real identity. The bottom has coaches that are trying to fix some pretty badly broken programs, and that gap is going to be visible every single Saturday. So as far as the tiers go, tier 1 is Boise State. And that's it. That's the whole tier. The Broncos have got the best projection. They got the strongest overall roster. They got real line play on both sides. Madison is back returning at quarterback. You got Riley and Gaines giving them a real run or a real ground game, I guess. The legitimate concern is probably the passing game. Like Madison needs to be more efficient this year. The wide receiver room has got to replace the top 4 targets. The secondary has some turnover. But compared to everybody else in this league, Boise's got the fewest holes by a pretty significant margin. Like, this is their conference until somebody physically takes it. Tier 2 is where it gets pretty stacked. There's a lot of teams in Tier 2. San Diego State, Fresno State, Texas State, Washington State, and Utah State. And I think it's actually, if you toss in Texas State there, that's a good thing for them. That is a positive sign for them to be up this high in this conference. San Diego State has got the cleanest challenger. They are the cleanest challenger, I guess you could say. Conley's got them second. A lot of my ratings don't differ from Conley as far as this goes. Elite defense, special teams, all that stuff from last season, that's the foundation. But there is some real attrition here. Like DC Rob Arick is gone. Some of the key defenders are gone. The punter, Hunter Green, which was a real weapon, he's gone. The question is whether the offense can score enough points to offset any defensive regression. Jaden Denigal, you got Sutton and Washington. All those guys are back. The Aztecs have got to score more. I think that's the whole San Diego State question. And year 3 of Sean Lewis, I would I would expect that. Fresno State is the physical challenger, right? Matt Inch jumped to 37th in defensive SP plus in year one. I don't think that was an accident. They have a real identity here. The swing piece is going to be the quarterback. If Martin or Mandel is functional, then Fresno can make Boise uncomfortable. If the passing game is broken, they're going to be a pretty good bowl team with a ceiling that they just couldn't quite reach. Texas State is, I put them down as the chaos team, and I mean that entirely as a compliment. Like, Brad Jackson, I think, is the best quarterback in this conference. He had over 3,200 yards passing, over 800 rushing, highest total QBR of any returning group of 6 quarterback. And Lindy's, their preview magazine, named him as their Offensive Player of the Year projection for the league. Now, ESPN does project the defense near the bottom of the conference, which is the obvious problem. But if that defense gets from catastrophic to just bad, I think Jackson gives you a puncher's chance against pretty much anybody on the schedule. Washington State is a fun one because they could cut either direction. Right? 4 head coaches in 6 years is not a stable foundation, but Kirby Moore is really good at what he does. He brings that offensive creativity, and having a quarterback like Caden Pennick is going to be pretty fascinating. The problem is that every player who took 200-plus snaps on defense last year is gone. Just a complete rebuild. Like, Wazoo might be dangerous. They also might be too new everywhere to trust until October shows us something. Like, I have no idea really what to expect, but they are chaos. Utah State is the team that I respect most and am most careful about as far as market prices. Bronco Mendenhall and Robert and I are proven, serious coaches. Hillstead gives them a real quarterback option, and the defense has an improvement trajectory. The problem is they've got the hardest conference schedule in the Pac-12, at least by my strength of schedule table. Like, this team might be better than their record all year and have nothing to show for it at the end. Now, as far as Tier 3, these are the rebuilds, right? Oregon State and Colorado State. Oregon State is a first-year rebuild. The defense might keep them in games. The offense has got to make a big leap after 2-10. Colorado State brought in Jim Mora, which is a real hire, but this is a reset roster, and they've got the second hardest schedule in the conference. Like, I don't think either one of these is a title threat in 2026. Let's talk about what this conference does well. Boise gives the league immediate national credibility. If the Broncos dominate, the Pac-12 has got a real CFP argument, and that matters for the whole conference. The defensive identity near the top is pretty legit, right? Boise, San Diego State, Fresno. All of them can win ugly, and that kind of stuff travels in November. Like, the quarterback room is better than what you would expect for a rebuilt league. Like, Brad Jackson's a pretty elite player. Madsen is he's a title game quarterback. Caden Pennick is one of the most intriguing portal additions anywhere in college football. ESPN also notes 4 Pac-12 teams rank in the top half nationally in returning production. Like, so it's not a conference that's just starting from zero. It's just going to look new. And the concern here is that Boise may be too far ahead for this to feel like a race. But every single challenger has an obvious significant flaw, but they've all got upside as well, right? And the flaws, San Diego State needs an offense. Fresno needs a quarterback. Texas State needs defense. Washington State might need everything, or they might have everything. We don't know. Utah State needs a schedule that just won't cooperate. It's got the best G6 profile, but it's possibly built like a pyramid with a really large gap at the top. Maybe it looks like one of them Christmas trees. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway. All right, key players. Let's talk about key players. Brad Jackson at Texas State, I think, is the best player in this conference. Over 4,100 total yards of production last season. Like, he gets G.J. Kinney's offense. The defense doesn't matter when he's got the ball. Like, he makes Texas State dangerous against everybody. Maddox Madsen at Boise, I think, is the most important quarterback because Boise's national ceiling depends on him taking a step forward as far as efficiency goes. Like, the Broncos can win the league with just decent quarterback play. If Madsen becomes more than decent, then, this will be a CFP kind of team. Caden Pennick at Washington State is the transfer to watch. If the UC Davis production translates, Wazoo becomes pretty uncomfortable pretty fast. Jaden Denegal at San Diego State, he needs to give the Aztecs a little more oomph, more efficiency, certainly more scoring. Like, the defense has done its job. The offense has got to start doing it. At Utah State, you got Hillstead, and I feel like Mendenhall and Anai can really overachieve if the quarterback is functional. As far as best offenses, Texas State, highest ceiling with Jackson. Boise has the most complete structure if any kind of passing game develops. Fresno's got the most physical run game identity. Wazoo has the most, I would say the most interesting upside, so long as Pinnock translates. As far as the best defenses, Boise, that's the safest. San Diego State's got the reputation, but they're losing some guys, so we're going to see what the new guys look like. Fresno has got the best physical front. Utah State's got the best improvement trajectory. Boise's defensive line, that's the single unit most responsible for keeping the Broncos at the top of all of these projections because they just create consistent havoc. My strength of schedule table, the Winning Cures Everything strength of schedule table, is pretty telling as far as this conference goes. You got your brutal paths, right? Utah State with the hardest schedule. And that's rough for a team that I actually like. Colorado State's got the second hardest, which is rough for a year one rebuild. Oregon State with the third hardest. That's a real problem after going 2-10. San Diego State with the fourth most difficult, which is why their road to the title game is tougher than Boise's, even if they're the second best team. As far as a favorable path, Boise's got the easiest conference schedule. Best projection plus the easiest path is probably a big double advantage, right? Washington State has got the second easiest. That helps that Pinnock upside case pretty significantly. Texas State got a manageable draw, which is like a core part of a title game sleeper argument, right? As far as games that could decide the conference, Texas State at San Diego State on October 3rd, that's a pretty early litmus test for whether San Diego State can hold off a quarterback-driven offense. Fresno State at Washington State, also on October 3rd. That's the first real read on whether Pinnock is going to be the real deal. Boise State at Fresno, that's October 10th, might be Boise's closest projected conference game all year. Fresno then turning around the next week and going to San Diego State, October 17th. That could clarify who the second best team in this league is. Washington State goes to San Diego State on Halloween. That's another data point in the fight for that second title game seat. San Diego State at Boise State in late November. You can go ahead and circle that one. That's likely your title game preview. I feel pretty good about those. I put Oregon State on here, going to Boise on November 14th. I don't think I would worry about that swinging any race. My projected Pac-12 championship game is going to be Boise State against San Diego State. Now, part of me wanted to say Fresno, but there's just something about San Diego State that I've always appreciated. Boise gets there because they're the best team, right? Best projection, best schedule path, best trench profile. No system has them finishing anywhere but first. So I'd feel kind of foolish if I was just different for the sake of being or if I was different for the sake of being different. San Diego State gets there because defense and special teams don't just stop working because the calendar says November, right? If the offense becomes even functional, the Aztecs can grind out enough wins. I'm not locked into them as that second team. Like I told you about Fresno, I feel good about them. Texas State can steal that spot, if Brad Jackson carries the load. If the defense improves at all, Wazoo could steal it if Pinnock translates pretty quick. My projected champ is going to be Boise. I guess the least complicated champion pick of any conference preview that I've done. It's not whether Boise deserves to be favored because they pretty clearly do. The question is whether anybody is actually good enough to make them sweat. And I don't know that they are. Now let's talk betting angles. Overvalued. Boise at plus 164 to win the conference. Everybody sees the same favorite. The win total market sits around 8 wins with over 7.5 at minus 160. Under 8.5 is minus 120. So over 7.5 is probably right, but really expensive. And also, like, be careful with San Diego State if the market prices them as the unquestioned second-best team. Like, the defensive attrition is real. The offense still has to prove things. The undervalued Texas State plus 630. That's an interesting upside bet. Best quarterback in the league at a long price. You got a manageable schedule. Defense just has to get from historically bad to just, like, kind of bad. Like, you do that, and that offense should be able to win quite a few games. Washington State at plus 1040. That's the best price on that. That's pretty compelling with Pinnock and the second easiest league path. Fresno State at plus 800. That's like the physical value if you believe that the quarterback answer becomes pretty functional there. Utah State plus 1260. And so I put on here that they're better as a live underdog. And I think that makes sense. Like, the coaching staff is too good to fade them outright, but that schedule is going to cost them wins that they should be getting because it's just a tough schedule. As far as final takes, my surprise team is Texas State. Having the best quarterback in the league, having an explosive offense, manageable schedule. The Bobcats are going to beat somebody they have no business beating, and they're going to make everybody reassess everything. I don't think that they're going to win the league. I don't think. But they're going to cause all kind of problems for everybody. The disappointment pick, San Diego State, if the market prices them as the absolute second-best team through August, last year's elite defense and special teams both took hits in the portal. If the defense slides and the offense cannot compensate, then you're watching a team that probably 7-5 that never really threatens Boise, right? Big picture, the Pac-12 is back, and the first version of it belongs to Boise State until somebody takes that away. We've been through all the other stuff. Texas State's got the quarterback, Fresno with the physicality, San Diego State with the defensive DNA. Boise's the pick. Everybody else is just kind of auditioning for the role of antagonist. All right, that is going to do it for the Sun Belt, the American, and the Pac-12. Next up, I don't remember what's coming next on the channel. Maybe my college game day predictions. Maybe I may just start working on other conference previews, SEC, Big Ten, etc. Who knows? But there's a lot of stuff in the works for July and August. So if you have not already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to Winning Cures Everything, whether that's on the podcast or on the YouTube channel. And make sure to comment with your thoughts on all these conferences, the picks, anything else in this crazy world of college football. I appreciate all of you for following along here with Winning Cures Everything. If I don't see you before then, have a wonderful 4th of July. It's hotter than fire outside, but still enjoy having a day off work, celebrating our independence, all that good stuff. 250 years. Well, that's something, ain't it? All right, with that said, till next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other. God bless college football, and hopefully all of your tickets cash this week.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Subscribe, leave a review or comment, follow at GaryWCE on X, and check out the web store